Humble Leadership, The Power of Relationships, Openness, and Trust by Edgar H. Schein and Peter A. Schein. The four levels of leadership are 1 level -1, inhumane, 2 level 1, impersonal, 3 level 2, totally humane, and 4 level 3, bonded. Level 2 calls for humble leadership, which is open, personal, engaging and trusting. Humble leaders see every individual as valuable. This leadership approach thrives in a transparent corporate culture with robust workforce relationships. Humble leadership is collaborative. It has nothing to do with vertical hierarchy or the heroic performance of designated leaders. Humble leaders build strong relationships and understand group dynamics. Every relationship, including managerial relationships, relies on aligned mutual expectations. An archaic, authoritarian and punitive management culture can easily overwhelm humble leaders. Their goal should be to transform their corporate culture to make Level 2 leadership accepted, expected and sustainable. Summary. Humble leadership. In organizations that run on cutthroat competitiveness, employees often regard their leaders as heroic superstars who brilliantly meet their challenges. But companies don't gain from positioning their leaders as masters of the hierarchy and designated heroes. Instead, they should turn to a different model: collaborative, cooperative, group-oriented and relationship-based humble leadership. This contemporary leadership tactic hinges on open and trusting relationships within groups. Its hallmarks, candor, trust and openness, become the welcome, defining characteristics of humble leaders' corporate cultures. In dismal contrast, many traditional organizations carry the burden of role-based, authoritative, disciplinary and transactional leadership marred by a lack of trust or openness. Leadership exists in all corners and levels of all organizations. Smart organizations are no longer hierarchical. They know worthwhile leaders can emerge from any tier in a company. Depending on their circumstances, talents and capabilities, everyday people can and do step up and lead, often contributing substantial knowledge and expertise. The leader's relationship continuum. Leadership generally means getting other people to join you in taking on new and better challenges. Leaders operate at 4 different levels of relationship representing common societal norms. Organizationally, the relationship continuum includes Level -1 leadership. This oppressive leadership style relies on intimidation, domination and power. It doesn't recognize people's common humanity. Think of prisoners and their guards or sweatshop bosses and their workers. Level 1 leadership. This transactional, arm's-length, machine-like, impersonal style relies on the designated roles and rules of the basic managerial culture. Examples include traditional bosses and their team members. Sometimes, Level 1 leaders try to masquerade as Level 2 leaders, but they seldom can perpetuate this fraud for long. People sense their lack of authenticity. Striving to remain relevant, but increasingly unable to do so, Level 1 leadership devolves to individual competencies. It views employees as expendable human resources. Level 2 leadership. In contrast, leaders at this level recognize employees as individuals. They know everyone is valuable. They practice personalized, trusting humble leadership, which is collaborative and cooperative. Level 2 doesn't rely on hierarchical roles. It replaces subordination with collaboration. Examples include close colleagues on corporate teams. Level 2 leadership isn't for executives only. Today, doctors, teachers and other professionals are learning that friendly, personal relationships with their colleagues and those they serve are more effective and enduring than formal, distant ones. Level 3 leadership. People experience this elevated, bonded leadership in their closest relationships. Examples include loving couples or intense work groups, such as teams of U.S. Navy SEALs. Great teams operate at level 3, since levels 1 and 2 can't nourish the necessary caliber of performance. Executives often assume that level 3 leadership will foment problems in ongoing business operations. Individual competencies within group dynamics. Calm, steady, humble leadership aligns and attunes to the chaotic circumstances of the modern world more effectively than ossified impersonal leadership. Humble leadership, which relies on group dynamics, is sensible and natural. People welcome it and adapt to it easily. We have to think more broadly about the future of work itself, to consider how our concepts of level 2 relationships and humble leadership will prove to be necessary for sustained effectiveness. Humble leaders know that group dynamics outweigh rugged individualism in today's workforce. They show particular expertise at group dynamics and group sensemaking. Group interaction frequently calls on the skills that define humble leaders, such as understanding when to step into a situation by defining the context, checking for a consensus, laying out plans or making decisions. The group environment is also conducive for setting goals, asking for ideas, brainstorming, and building systemic understanding. I see you. A level 2 leader recognizes other people's total presence. Which is not to say that he or she wants to be your friend or hang out socially. Instead, these leaders understand that you are both engaged in a mutual business relationship. They are aware of the individuality of the people they lead, attuned to their humanity and conscious of how much the firm depends on them. Leadership always refers to some task that can be improved and to some group whose values and culture will ultimately determine what is better. For example, the CEO of a giant, international chemical conglomerate works on an intimate daily basis with 11 trusted division heads and other managers. The CEO made these 11 advisors jointly responsible for the firm's financial and operational health and overall performance. The CEO and this team share responsibility for the firm's future, not the CEO alone. Even, or especially, in the U.S. military, the old model, organizations as machines led by heroes, is the past, not the future. These 12 executives meet regularly to plot strategy. Every 3 years, the advisors switch responsibilities. Each person moves to a different division, so over time they all develop a thorough understanding of the business. This prevents them from becoming insular, close-minded champions of any one department. Their joint accountability promotes honest dialogue and stress-free group decisions. During meetings, everyone speaks openly. They also retain group-oriented process consultants who help them work together effectively. Instead of heading into work wondering how you alone can solve the problem, what if you went to work committed to sorting it out with a partner or team? This novel working arrangement exemplifies the invigorating level 2 changes now underway within many organizations. Companies often undertake these changes experimentally to test new methods. Leaders' strong personal relationships with their employees become a unifying element in these new arrangements. Moving from level 1 to level 2. Most people understand how to create level 2 relationships with their friends and relatives. Transforming level 1 relationships into level 2 relationships takes work. New level 2 leaders will need personal and professional development to help bring about this change. They should read and reflect, study group processes and the dynamics of complex systems. Learn to design work relationships. Assess your workplace networks and relationships. Remember that relationships are always interactive. Create a relationship map with yourself in the center. Place the names of the people in your work and personal life above your name, beside or below your name to indicate how much they expect of you. Vary the thickness of the lines connecting each person to you to indicate your degree of mutually perceived connection. For example, the line to your family would be quite thick. The line to your CEO might be a thread. This map, which provides a clear overview of your level of personal connection with the people in your workforce, can guide you in connecting to and interacting with them. Develop your behavioral skills. Conversations build relationships. To achieve Level 2 communication, ask questions that are a bit more personal than normal, but stay aware of the boundaries of your cultural norms. Both parties can mutually reveal a little more about themselves. Make eye contact and listen well. The process of building the skills required for closer professional relationships doesn't follow a set formula. If you know your intuition is reliable, trust your instincts. Ironically, the single best indicator that humble leadership can proliferate is that messy complex problems are becoming more common and the importance of growth is as high as ever. A strong relationship relies on some symmetry in mutual expectations, that is, you can reliably predict how the other party will behave. This knowledge drives trust. Humble leadership depends on personization, which means basing a relationship on a person's humanity, not on his or her assigned role. It involves sharing personal information in an honest, interactive way. The challenge is establishing how much personalization works for both parties. A new model for leadership. Today's challenges require Level 2 leadership because tasks are getting harder exponentially. Organizational activities and tasks are growing more convoluted and perplexing. Businesses face the challenges of booming technology and increasing diversity. Managerial culture is myopic and often self-defeating. Engineering advances, technological breakthroughs and automation eliminate most production errors. Yet quality and safety issues confound manufacturers due to management deficiencies emerging from outmoded leadership structures. Humble leadership can fix these problems. Generational changes reshape social and work values. Younger employees want their firms to be purposeful and socially and environmentally responsible. They want their jobs to have meaning. Conventional managers usually don't care about these dynamics, but humble leaders recognize their importance. The soft stuff. Soft skills carry little or no weight in Level 1 top-down cultures, but are essential to Level 2 leadership. To illustrate the Level 1 leader's lack of soft skills, consider the typical hierarchy-based meeting, often the bane of business life. Efficiently run meetings should work like machines, they start and finish on time. They stick closely to agendas. Designated individuals organize and run them. They often involve the judicious if not brutal assignment of action items and deliverables. Once one has made the transition from Level 1 to Level 2 relationships, the new environment feels more comfortable, more real and more effective. Relentlessly managed meetings embody a corporate hierarchy with no room for personalization. New employees attending these such meetings often wonder why they're attending at all, what management expects of them, whether they can speak freely and if there are hidden agendas. To make business meetings less formal and more productive, apply the soft skills of humble leadership, especially when new employees are present. Don't label get-togethers as meetings. Use informal check-ins so attendees learn about each other and the purpose of the gathering without pressures or expectations. Sharing a meal or snacks represents breaking bread, which is the way people have come together amicably for thousands of years. Don't designate organizing psychologically safe meetings to HR or outside consultants. Humble leaders perform this task themselves. The future of humble leadership. As the future organizations evolve, humble leadership will evolve along with them. This coevolution is likely to unfold along 6 parameters. Context over content. Partly due to the growing importance of artificial intelligence, context and process will matter even more than content and expertise. Cultural heterogeneity. Tribalism and its attendant unconscious biases are growing more dominant in society. Humble leadership must work around this phenomenon. Distributed power. Morally compromised leaders abuse their power. Humble leadership's distributed power makes sure that no individual gathers enough power to be abusive. Mass customization. Humble leadership is adaptive. Tailor your leadership strategies to meet the disparate needs of all your stakeholders, customers and employees. Dynamic organizational design. As mobile online business becomes more dominant as the way people connect with each other, humble leadership will have to adjust continually to this new dynamic. Virtual presence. Large organizations are increasingly global. To remain relevant, effective and influential, humble leaders must develop a strong virtual presence. Employees worldwide need to know that their leader is available to them when needed and is always ready to address their concerns. About the authors. Edgar H. Schein, Ph.D., is Professor Emeritus at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Sloan School of Management. His son Peter A. Schein co-founded and is Chief Operating Officer of the Organizational Culture and Leadership Institute.